Alright, I did some work with this just for fun, and it's important to know here that I'm not qualified to work on this building because it's not three family and less. So I'm just doing this as your friend and telling you how it would apply if it was residential. So it's going to be the same kind of rules, but I'm not qualified and permitted to do this or charge you for it or anything like that. So I'm just telling you about this from my standpoint. And an engineer may advise you differently, probably very well will advise you differently. But if this were a residential place and I was trying to remedy some of the problems that I saw, this would be my approach. I tested those floor joists, those 2x8s at 16 inches on center, and I thought there might be one or two of those that were problematic back in the crawl space that were spliced instead of solid. I think there was only one. So after I tested those to 51 pounds, that was the max they were going to be able to hold, 51 pounds per square foot. And so everything else though that I designed after that was based on 40 pounds per square foot, because that would have been the loading that it was originally designed for, is my guess. So that much said, yes, if it were my building and I had that kind of investment, I would definitely seek the advice of a professional engineer. And hopefully that works out and is not onerously costly. But that much aside, I don't think that the city can require you to do that at all. To my understanding, you have made no changes beyond the nice cosmetic changes at the outside, and they should have no leverage or no point of law to say that you have to do these things to the inside or even inspect that inside. So, but that much said, here's the rest of the review on what I found with regard to the structural things that I saw, analyzing it from a residential designer's perspective with no qualification to actually advise you on this building. But here is pretty much what you have down there. The blue ones are the ones that exist. I did not look back there, peer back there and see if they've got one back here on a foundation footing. If they don't, they would need to. And these ones here, so those are existing. We don't know what kind of footings, whether those, maybe that concrete all the way through there is 12 inches thick, which would be ideal. But we can't assume that. A person could probably investigate that and find out. But in any event, these ones, in order to get this beam here to pass, these three 2x6s, in order to get that to pass with 40 pounds loading on it, I had to put in these intermediate columns. And I don't know whether they were there at the beginning and also taken out. I didn't look for any scars on the floor. I don't recall seeing any of them. So if I was designing this and providing plans for a homeowner to do this, I'm showing it the way I would do it. And you may want to, a person with a hammer drill could see how thick this concrete is. And if it's 6 inches thick through here, that will be enough that you won't have to cut these out and put these in for these to make any difference. Because if you don't, with 3,000 pounds on each of those, there's a chance it could just sink through that concrete or buckle that concrete. And I could very well be wrong on that, and an engineer could probably tell you whether or not that is also true. But I believe code minimum for these column footings is 6 inches thick in any event. And that was my concern with regard to those post jacks as well, that concrete wasn't substantial. So that might be something to do if you know something with a hammer drill that will go through that. And here is a section through here. I'm not positive your attic joists are 2x6s, but if they are, that will hold, you can't have any storage up here really. This will hold 8 pounds per square foot dead load and maybe 10 pounds per square foot live load. So there shouldn't be any storage up there. But if that's done and there is no storage up there, this beam B, this 3 2x10s, which is assumed, does pass with those columns where they are on that first floor. And this is what I would specify for each of those 3 columns that I would say to add in is the 3 6x6s with these 2 little connector pieces up here. These are only a couple dollars a piece. And then the footing down here, which you have to cut that existing concrete, and that has to be 16 inches by 16 inches and 7 inches thick, and then you have to have some pieces of rebar in that as well to do this the correct way. See, when you do it like this, beam A, it passes, and this is the loading down here on each of those columns, about 2,500 pounds. Once we took that loading down to 40 pounds per square feet, down from 50, you ended up with about 2,500 pounds on each of those locations, which that's why the 16-inch square footing is required. And those are the column bases. You need those, and that was the cheapest I saw them. You need something to fasten that to the concrete and keep it up and off the concrete so that it's not going to get wet. And just to double check myself, I took out those 3 columns that I had added in, made these spans back to what they are, and it does fail and breaks here. So anyway, that is my experiential advice to you based on what I've known from doing residential design to remedy the failure of this beam through here. And you would definitely have to double check whether this one exists back here in the crawl space. If not, that has to be put in. And then I just want to add one other thing, because I had said earlier that I didn't think you were ever going to get that to 100 pounds per square foot, but frankly you could get at least this portion to 100 pounds per square foot by building a wall. It doesn't have to be drywalled on both sides, but by building those walls down there, that first floor system and this beam with these columns added in would be rated for 100 pounds per square foot. If that ends up becoming a real problem, that's my finding that could be done. There wouldn't be anything but walls and columns down here, but they're not letting you use it as part of the store anyway. But that's all. I just wanted to see if it was possible, and it indeed was. So that's all for now. I'll be happy to talk with you anytime after you meet with the engineer as well, if you need anything else. That's all. Thanks.